Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Today we're going to learn about a math technique, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to start by reading a story and then asking you a few questions about the story. Okay. Last Saturday, I was so hungry and decided to order a whole pizza all to myself. I opened the box, and the pizza guy forgot to cut the pizza. Right as the delivery man left, my roommate Paige came home and was super hungry. I told her she could have a piece, but she wanted the same amount as me. Right when we were about to cut the pizza, the doorbell rang. It was our neighbor, Joe. He was locked out of his house. I told him he could come in, and he smelled the pizza. Then he saw it was pepperoni and asked if he could have some. Right as I was about to cut his piece, he said, "Hey, that's not fair. I want the same size as you and Paige." So we decided to cut the pizza into 3 equal parts. But as soon as I grabbed the pizza cutter, the doorbell rang again. It was the pizza man, and he came back to apologize for not cutting our pizza. I said it was no problem and invited him in for a piece. Since Paige and Joe both wanted the same size piece, we then decided that we would cut the pizza into 4 equal pieces. I turned around to get some plates, and when I looked at the pizza, it was gone. Turns out my naughty dog got a hold of it and ate the whole thing. So in the end, none of us got pizza, and the only thing we had was a sick puppy. Do you know what that's called when we're taking a whole of something and cutting it into smaller, equal pieces? No? Okay. Well, today it's called making fractions. Fractions are a smaller part of a whole. And the words we're going to work with today are a whole of a pizza, or anything actually, a half of anything, a third of it, or a fourth of it. With each of those words, the pieces get smaller and smaller. And some situations, like you would use that in real life. Say you had a whole sandwich and you wanted to share with your brother. You both wanted a half, but you wanted them to be the same, so nobody would argue about it. So you each get 1/2 of the sandwich. For example, say you had 1/2 of a pizza. You ate this half, say, yesterday. You had a half left, and you and 3 of your friends came over. You would split it into 4 equal pieces, and you would each get 1/4 of the half that you already had. Okay. There's 2 steps to evaluating fractions and figuring out how to write them as like a word or as a fraction mark. The 2 steps are, the first step, you ask yourself, how many pieces do I have total? And that's when you look at the bottom number, which is called the denominator. So for example, you have 1/4. And so you look at the denominator, and that tells me I have 4 pieces in the whole. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You're welcome. The second step is how many pieces do I have? And then you look at the numerator, which is a 1. That's telling you you have 1 piece of the 4. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay. So now you're going to have, I'm going to give you 3 little cookies here and a pair of scissors. For the first cookie, I want you to think that you're sharing it with your best friend. How would you cut it so you can each have the same equal parts?
5. Yeah. And 3.
Awesome. Great job. How come you cut it there?
I cut it there because in the middle you can separate it into 2 different pieces. But if you put it on one end, then one person gets a lot more. If you put it on the other end, the other person gets a lot more.
Right. So in fractions, we call this 1/2. So you each get 1/2 of the, what is that together? Whole. Awesome. Good job. So now say you and your best friend have this cookie, and I come along, and I want a piece of it too. How would you cut that so we can all share it and get the same amount? come you cut it like that?
I cut it like that because if I did what I did here and made 3 lines, then 2 people would just get ends of the cookie, and
Right.
1 person would get the middle.
Right, and the pieces wouldn't necessarily be equal.
No.
Right. Okay, awesome. Good job. Now, for this last one, imagine 4 of your friends are together. You're not getting any of the cookie. You're just going to give it to them. How would you cut it so they could each get a piece that's the same?
I will have to probably classroom.
Great job. That's perfect. I saw you looking at the half one. Did you look at that one to compare that, or were you just...
Yeah, I was looking at the half because
No, I said.
if you have 4 people, it's just like taking 2 halves and then cutting those into halves.
Right. Great job. Great thinking. All right. Do you know what we call 4 together? An individual 4. One of these. What do we call that? Do you know?
Tell me one thing that you put.
4?
Right. So, looking back at this picture, how many of these would we shape for if we had 1/4?
We would just shade the 1.
And how many total would we have?
We would have 4.
4 total. Awesome. Great job. Okay. Now, we're going to move into the assessment, but first we're going to review some of the terms we used. So, when we look at the numerator, which is what number? Top or bottom?
Top number?
Top number is the numerator. Awesome. When we look at that, that's telling us what? Do you remember?
How many we have?
We have. And what does the denominator tell us?
How many pieces there are at the same time?
In the
Yeah.
whole thing. Awesome. Okay. So I'm gonna lay some of these cards out, and they have fractions on the other side. Okay. Here's your worksheet. So pick one of these. Look at it. Determine what's the numerator and denominator, and then do that for number 1.
So I make it like a chocolate bar kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Take my quality work here.
Let's do this.
And now do that same problem with a
Okay.
pizza. This shows us that it doesn't matter what shape. You can, as long as it has, you can split it into equal parts. You can split it into a fraction.
Is that good? Or it looks good right here. Ooh.
Awesome.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
do it 2 more
was looking at my
times.
phone too, just 'cause
Yeah.
I couldn't stand up by itself. Do you think that
Yeah, no, I can get this to stand by itself. I can fill one.
on my phone you can just fill it all the way through?
The number on the top is the same as the number on the bottom.
Awesome. So let's see what it looks like when you draw it out. So how much of the whole do you have?
Not a problem. No,
You
I
have all of the whole.
All of it. So when the numerator and denominator are equal, you have the whole thing. All right, one more time, and do that with the bottom one
Oh,
too.
that's right.
And it'll be like red.
So, at the end, tell me whether or not you think I had time for them.
Good morning, kindergartners. My name is Miss Phelps, and I am excited to teach you.
Good job.
From
That's
Iowa State
perfect.
University, and today I'm going to be teaching
All right.
you math club.
In closing, we're going to
So
look
I have
at one of
9
these
cards
fractions.
here to show you, and they all all have something in. What do you think
All right.
we all have in common?
Can you point to the numerator?
You're right.
Good job.
Yeah, they all have
And
a
how?
one in
And what does the
first, like,
denominator
which
tell us
means
about
they
this
all
number?
are greater than the number
How many
10.
pieces there
But
are?
you also notice that
And how many do we
they're
have?
not
4.
greater than
Good
20.
job.
So
And what does the
numbers that
numerator
we're
tell
gonna
us?
say are between
How many we
10
have?
and 20.
Okay.
What
Awesome.
number comes after
Good job. Now, can you think of
Yeah,
anything
good job.
in your life that you could
And then
split
do you know what
into
number is one
a
less
half?
than 20?
or a third or a fourth? Like, what are some things that we could
So
split?
those are the 9 numbers that we're going to be working with today.
A sandwich?
Sandwich. Good job. Anything else you can think of?
To sort them into tens and ones. So that'll help you just a little bit. But first one we learn about it was
A pizza?
Pizza. Good job. Now let's think of one more thing. Something that's not food.
Anybody know what the word digit means? That's a really fancy word. Alright.
Like,
so,
On a
like
clock, you can split the time.
Yeah, good job. That'd be just kind of like a pizza too. It's the same shape. Awesome. Great job today.
Number. But we don't say two number, because that would sound silly. So we say